Let's go!
What's up, dudes? Max here, back with another impressions video from an early preview event that we got to check out, Mortal Kombat 1. Again, a big shout out to WB Games for making this possible. They allowed us access to the game and this event so that we can check out an early preview of some of the single-player elements that Mortal Kombat 1 is set up to offer. And in the previous video, we talked about the story mode, the single-player story mode that NRS games are very much well known for. And now we're talking about the completely new thing that Mortal Kombat 1 is doing, which is called Invasion. So to break it down, Invasions is essentially a mode where you select your own individual character to go on this adventure. You have a cameo and your base roster member, and they are going to actively like increase in stats and modifiers through this adventure as you go through and unlock stuff. Now, you'll notice right at the start that you're essentially going through like Johnny Cage's mansion at the beginning, but there are other locations that you will be going through and other active locations and boss fights and all these things that you'll be encountering along the way. It pretty much plays out like a board game in first impression, where you're going from place to place, and it's sort of linear at the start, just like going from point A to point B and fighting some enemies here, fighting some enemies there, which are kind of like slightly altered versions of what characters are going to be available in the main game a bit later. So at least here we get sort of a preview of what some of these other characters sort of like play like that we haven't actually seen before, which is nice. I'll try to get more footage of that in here as possible. But as you start making it through, things start getting altered quite a bit. You unlock keys to go through doors, and in the process of doing this, you start unlocking stuff. So long story short, the biggest thing I got out of Invasions mode is that this is sort of a very interactable and like adventure mode version of the Krypt, where in previous games in the Krypt, you would get like a currency of some kind for doing other activities in the game, and then take that currency to the different Krypts throughout Mortal Kombat games and start to unlock things and, you know, get stuff progressively unlocked throughout all the Krypt, and you get the big expansive one where you have a character running around in Mortal Kombat 11. This is definitely a bit different than that. It seems like they really wanted to turn the Krypt into an actual single-player mode, because yes, you do start unlocking things for characters. You start unlocking other stuff like brutalities and, you know, all the different unlockables that are going to be presented throughout the game. And another question that I think a lot of people have been asking about, which is like customizability or gear. And yes, there was some moments where I was unlocking customizable items for characters in Mortal Kombat 1, specifically through this game mode. And through the process of going through this game mode, I was like, oh, so we get to change, you know, the mask of a character or something like that. We don't have the full list because we did not have the available options to us to show you like what exactly is customizable, but this is where it is. Like, this is where a lot of those unlocking of items and brutalities and all this stuff from the previous Krypt that you got to go through, it's pretty much done here. But it isn't like that straightforward. There's a lot more to it, because you get different modifiers and things that'll actually interrupt the match. This is where, you know, ice hail starts coming out of the sky, or rockets will fly in from the side of the stage, where you have to sort of work around your stats to counter those elements. There's a moment where you get like a fire relic of some kind, and you run into like an ice enemy like Sub-Zero, and you have to sort of counter their ice attack using your fire relic. So it's, once again, significantly more interactable, and you'll also see that, yes, your character does like somewhat get more stats and level up. So this isn't as expansive as a giant like world tour thing, but it definitely is something that is a bit more meat and bones than just jumping through a story mode, playing a story mode for the first time and having that be that. The nice part is that there's a lot of incentives here, right? There's a whole bunch of incentives to play Invasions mode because of unlockables, brutalities, potentially other fatalities, right? Those are usually there, and you just have to like execute the input. But if you don't know the input, you would sort of unlock it most likely in Invasions mode, just similar to previous Mortal Kombat games. So that's fun, right? This is something that is going to take up a lot of time, it feels like, and a lot of, like, you know, experience throughout the game. And it'll just be enjoyable to go through and unlock things for characters. And we don't know the exact progression plan, like how you unlock. Is it stuff specifically for your main character? Even though I don't think it is, because I was unlocking stuff for, like, Sub-Zero, and I was playing as Kung Lao throughout all of this. That's the other thing that I wanted to mention, is the different things that we're unlocking is stuff like colors and those customizable options. But I did get to play Kung Lao in this version, and he was the one new character along with Cyrax's cameo that was playable in this version of the game. So we can't really give you many impressions on the other characters in MK1 because we fought against them in CPU form and they were only so difficult. But with Kung Lao, I can definitely speak a bit more about him, and he's pretty interesting. He seems relatively like straightforward in terms of like a usable character. He's got a pretty good dive kick similar to Sub-Zero's that recovers very fast, and a lot of his specials and like hat tosses and that stuff is there. The one thing that is missing though, which was kind of surprising, is his teleport. It didn't seem to be anywhere in his move list, so I'm assuming it's not there. I'm assuming it's not an unlockable of any kind. But funny enough, we've already seen that the Kung Lao cameo does have a teleport of some kind, right? So I'm assuming that they sort of saved that for the Kung Lao, classic Kung Lao cameo. And for this version of the character, he has decent combo extensions, like pretty good damage, and he's sort of quick. Not as fast as like, you know, MK11 or MKX Kung Lao, which were just blitzkriegingly fast in some situations. Maybe not that much, but definitely has a decent high-low mix. He's got a low starter. He's got a pretty fast overhead. All that kind of stuff leads into easy cameos, and, you know, he seems like he's going to be pretty good. It does not seem that bad at all. The other one that was very interesting was the Cyrax assist, and again, we have another cameo character that has sort of a hidden move. We saw this with Frost in the beta, where if you held down an attack, it actually modified and gave you a fourth cameo move. Cyrax is kind of similar. His neutral cameo was this upward spin that doesn't hit any enemies on the ground and was kind of hard to combo into. It only hits aerial enemies, so you have to launch them into it to get them into the air. This is for characters, I guess, that don't have like meterless launchers. But funny enough, if you held down just neutral cameo button, the assist didn't go up anymore. It went horizontal. So it did like 5 hits horizontally, which seemed extremely good. Like, that was probably one of the better assists, I think, in the game, just because it covered a lot of horizontal space, allowed you to jump in and follow up for a combo, and was decent for block strings and all that stuff. So that seemed quite good. The other two options that he had was like the net and the bomb, and I think forward plus cameo was the bomb. And it's an explosion similar to like Jax, where Jax pounds the ground and everybody gets hit. It's sort of like that. Everybody takes like this explosive damage from it. And it seems like you have to really set this one up because, again, it isn't a, I think it's called like an ambush assist, where you have to take a pose and then wait till the pose is done and then the bomb comes out. So it seemed to have this longer pose animation to figure out, oh, where do I actually stick this thing to make it work? I'm sure there'll be something really good for that because it's an explosive that pops you up and you get a combo after. And is unblockable, I believe. Outside of that, he also has the net, and unfortunately, you would hope that the net would act like a Frost ice freeze and just be really fast and easy to combo into. It unfortunately wasn't. It was pretty slow, and it forces your character into a pose, which takes a long time for it to come out. So even comboing into it from any of Kung Lao's strings seemed exceedingly difficult from the little bit that I was messing around with, at least in this version of the game. So I hope that changes. I hope like some of these poses don't just last too long, because as of right now, it was like you sort of throw it out in neutral and just hope it hits, and that's about it. However, his other assists, like the spinning assist, was significantly good and did a lot of damage. So that's about it. Those were the only other playable characters that were in the game right now, and that was sort of disappointing to me. I really was hoping to get into the rest of the roster at least a little bit more, see how Scorpion plays, and obviously like Smoke and Reptile. Unfortunately, they just weren't. So we did get a better idea of what the single-player offerings are going to be like in Mortal Kombat 1, but I am really excited to play that other stuff, because every single time we get a new character or a new cameo, I feel like the game gets more interesting, and that is very valuable to a game where we've only seen 1/4 of the cameos, or even 1/5 of the total roster yet, in terms of what they really can do. So that's what I'm really looking forward to. That's where the launch week of Mortal Kombat 1 is going to be very exciting, just figuring out what people come up with, because there's just going to be so many things that we haven't actually seen too much of yet, which is easily where, like I keep saying, the meat and bones of Mortal Kombat 1 is going to be. Either way, a big shout out to WB Games for once again allowing us to get access to the game at this event. Hopefully you guys enjoyed some of this impressions of Invasions mode and the previous video on the single player story. I'm sure there'll be more stuff coming up for the game this week that we'll be able to talk about, and characters and stuff like that. I'll leave you with some more direct fights with some of the other casts that you might not have seen too much of yet as I was going through this mode. Oh, another thing to mention, Cyrax has possibly one of the best cameo fatalities in the game, in my opinion, and I'm going to go ahead and end the video with that one a bit later, so enjoy it. Hopefully you guys like this stuff. Leave a thumbs up if you did. I'll be back with more Mortal Kombat 1 content, online single-player stuff later on as we just play through the game and see what it's like. My name is Max, and I'll see you next time.
Kung Lao wins.